Good evening, Clarkies. This is Kamala Kayam, Associate Provost and Dean of Students. I'm thrilled that you're joining us tonight for this all-student pre-fall webinar. I'm here with wonderful campus partners who are all here to help you learn about all the good things that we have in store for you for the fall semester. I'm also co-moderating this session with Lamera Burgess, who is our Director of Student Success and Management, who will also say a few introductory words and also share a little bit about some of the logistics for our webinar tonight. Lamera.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone. Before we get started, I'd like to review a few housekeeping items. All of you should have access to a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen that stands for questions and answers. Please use that function to submit your questions. We will have folks working in the background throughout this webinar to answer some of your questions. Some of your questions may also be answered during live during the presentation. And we will also have some dedicated time toward the end for a moderated Q&A. So with the amount of folks in this session, I really recommend you using that chat function because your questions may be lost if you try to use the chat. For any questions not answered throughout this session, we may be able to do a follow-up email with some frequently asked questions to provide you with some additional information. So again, welcome to this webinar. I'll pass it back to Dean Kay.
Thank you, Lamera. It's my pleasure to introduce our speakers tonight. As you all know, you just met Lamera Burgess. Also joining us is Jess Montecalvo, Peyton Wu. Jess Montecalvo is our Director of Residence Life and Housing. Peyton Wu is our Director for Identity, Student Engagement, and Access. Michael Hardish is our Director of Student Leadership and Programming. Marcy Galvin-Hill, our Assistant Director of Counseling and Personal Growth. Felicia Smith, our Nurse Practitioner from Health Services. Jen Plant, our Associate Dean of Academic Services. Daniel Morgan Acosta, our Associate Dean of Students. Kamara Abubakar, our Associate Dean of Students. And behind the scenes, we have Nikki Roberts, our Assistant Dean of Students, Nikki Curley, our Dean of Student Coordinator, Sarah Lipolito, our Assistant Dean of International Education and Director of the International Center, and Susanna Marcusi, and I hope I'm saying your name right, Director and our Principal of Designated School Official and Responsible Officer for International Student and Scholars Office. Our hope for today is to go over updates regarding health and well-being initiatives here on campus. We want to provide you student life updates, share with you important dates and deadlines, and also field some of the questions that you might be posting in the Q&A. I'm actually going to pass it over to Lamera to take us through our first update.
Again, good evening, students. I hope you all are well. I'm so excited to welcome you all back to Clark in a couple of weeks. Some of you may join me in that excitement, and others may have feelings of worry and anxiety as we approach the fall semester. We recognize that the last couple of years have been a lot. In addition to a global pandemic we are still fighting today, there have been other crises, including war, ongoing violence, and social injustices. For many of you, your school years have looked different, and some of you may have even completed major milestones over Zoom. There have been a ton of changes and uncertainty that can be scary. It can cause anxiety and frustration and general hesitation for what's to come. The variety of feelings that you're experiencing are very valid and resonate for me as well. With that in mind, as we approach the fall semester, we have made it a priority to emphasize the importance of holistic well-being for the campus community. So in addition to being students with classes and assignments and other academic responsibilities, you all are human beings with lives and challenges outside of the classroom. So how can we expect you to do well academically if you aren't well in other areas? So holistic well-being is about being mindful of all the things that make you you and all the things that impact your experience. So what does that look like? Well, first, it starts off with us making intentional shifts in the structure of functions of our areas across campus to provide better, more sustainable support for you. You need consistent and specific support, and we're going to make it easier to access those resources. We're going to foster a community of care for yourself and others. I can see how much you all care for your peers, and that is a campus culture that we should continue to cultivate because we are stronger together. And finally, we will strengthen communication and transparency across the board about things that affect your student experience and opportunities for success. The person who will be leading us in this charge of health and well-being is Dr. Brett Rayford. He has a plethora of experience in the area of health and well-being, which you can read more about in his bio, but he specifically helps folks navigate mental health resources. Dr. Rayford will begin his journey with Clark on August 29th, and I'm excited to have him join us. He'll end up being my direct supervisor. And I extend my excitement and eagerness for him to meet you all very soon. Some areas that will fall under Dr. Rayford include care, the Center for Counseling and Personal Growth, health services, and wellness education. So I'm excited to hear more about this new initiative. So I now pass it back to Dean Kayam to talk about COVID-19 policies and protocol.
Thank you, Lamera. As Lamera said, the next few slides will cover our COVID-19 plan policies for the fall. Before I actually articulate our policies, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the decision-making process. First and foremost, the decision pertaining to our policies for fall are recommended policies by our COVID advisory board that's made up of different stakeholders at the institution. Based on your feedback from the spring semester, we've added Amanda Brown, who is our student representative and a wellness ambassador, and she has been at every COVID meeting and has met with me weekly throughout the late spring and has met with me a few times during the summertime as we think about the fall semester plan policies. In terms of our decision-making, we take into account the data. We look at our vaccination rate, we look at the hospitalization rate, the number of deaths, the virus concentration in wastewater, the number of cases, and the positivity rate, as well as we look at our CDC guidance that is provided to us. We communicate with local colleges and universities, and we're constantly listening to the feedback from our community members. And this town hall experience is one of the ways that we are soliciting your feedback as well. We're also assessing policies on a rolling basis. The COVID advisory is meeting weekly as we continue to gear up for our fall semester, and we'll continue to meet as needed as the fall semester unfolds. For those of you who may not know, our vaccination rate is extremely high compared to the national average and the Massachusetts average and the Worcester average. We are at a 98% fully vaccinated campus, and right now we're on track to also have an incoming class that is significantly vaccinated. That policy in terms of vaccination continues to remain in effect. In terms of our planned policies for the fall, all students are expected to be vaccinated. Visitors are also expected to be compliant with this expectation. Students will have the opportunity to be exempted if they so choose. If that's the case, you can always contact the Dean of Students office and we'll be happy to work with you. In regards to testing, rapid tests will be available at the Higgins University Center Information Desk. It is free and available for students, faculty, and staff. You will just need to show your ID and they will be happy to provide you a rapid test. If you're symptomatic, we encourage you to go to the health services, Clark Health Services, and they will provide the appropriate treatment for you. In terms of isolation and quarantine, we're following the CDC guidelines, and I believe today there was an update from the CDC in terms of whether or not you need to be quarantining if you are a close contact. I believe they've updated that to where you may not need to do that. COVID advisory group will take into that guidance, take in that recommendation, and we'll update our policies based on that recommendation from the CDC. If you are living on campus and you are positive for COVID, the expectation is that you are quarantining/isolating in your residence hall room. If for some reason the situation in your residence hall room is creating a truly unhealthy situation, whether your roommate might be severely ill or you are immunocompromised, health services will make a determination as to whether either your roommate or the person who's severely ill, they will make a determination as to whether one of you will go into one of the limited isolation rooms that we have available on campus. In terms of masking is always recommended here on campus, especially in indoor settings. Instructors or faculty may establish requirements to wear a mask within specific courses. Student employees may also ask others to wear masks in their office spaces, and KN95 masks will be available throughout different locations across campus. I'm now going to pass it over to Jen Plant to go over academic classes and COVID policies.
Thanks, Dean Kay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen Plant, Associate Dean of Academic Services. And as Dean Kay just mentioned, some faculty may establish mask requirements within their classrooms. There is a recommendation that in larger groups, folks on campus wear masks. Sometimes this holds true for classroom spaces, depending on the size of the classroom and the number of students in the class. So you may encounter faculty who will talk to the class and facilitate a dialogue about whether or not the class wants to establish mask requirements for the course. Students, we encourage you, if you feel strongly, we encourage, or even if you don't feel strongly, if you feel away, we encourage you to speak with your faculty and share your thoughts and concerns about whether you want your classmates to wear masks during classes. If you need to isolate or quarantine, please, we are really asking you to communicate quickly and fully with your faculty. The more the faculty know about your situation, the more they can assist you with an academic continuity plan. So please be in touch with your faculty. They will work with you to ensure that while you are isolated or in quarantine, even if they can't Zoom you into class, they are all being asked to develop plans such that if you cannot come to class, they will keep you up on all of the work. If you're well enough to do the work, they will keep you up to date on all the work. That may look like, you Zooming for office hours. If the classroom that they're in doesn't have the equipment to Zoom you into the classroom, they may ask you to Zoom during office hours. There are all kinds of other contingency plans that faculty have developed over the past year and a half that we've been dealing with this. So just communicate with them so that you can keep up with your coursework. If you have any concerns, please do feel free to contact your faculty members or contact the Dean of Students office or any one of us on this panel, and we will assist you. Now I'm going to pass things over to my colleague, Felicia Smith.
Hi, everyone. I hope you had a good, safe, healthy summer. So a lot of this is probably review for you guys, but we'll just go over it quickly. So we're still following the CDC guidance, stating 5-day isolation when you test positive, and then an additional 5 days of masking, washing hands, distancing, and staying away from large public gatherings. So this semester and school year may be a little different, where you may be in a little more close contact with someone who has tested positive. So that's just something to kind of prepare for and make sure that you're doing everything you can to lower your risk of getting the virus. So what you're going to do is try to wear your mask as much as possible, but obviously you don't need to wear one while sleeping, eating, or showering. Maintain 6 feet distance as much as possible. Don't share personal items. Disinfect every shared surface. Wipe those surfaces down. Use fans, open windows, and turn on air purifiers if you have those. And you should test on day 5 if you're a close contact and at any time that you develop symptoms, as well as stay home if you're not feeling well. And then it's obviously your decision if you want to leave the shared space to go home, or you have another friend or someone that you could stay with, that would decrease your risk of getting COVID. And as Dean Kay said, today the CDC did come out with additional guidance. And they basically just said that before it was that the close contacts who were not vaccinated should be quarantining, and now they have said that that's not necessarily, depending on the situation. It's just really important to stay away from vulnerable people, wear your mask, wash your hands, keep your distance. And the 6 feet isn't a requirement anymore, it's just recommended. Those were the big two changes that will probably affect you guys. And as always, if you want to read up on the current recommendations and what the CDC is saying, you can always go to their website. It's very easy to read and has tons of information. And then you guys can also always call health services. Any questions, concerns, we're there Monday through Friday. We're happy to answer any questions for you. And just the next slide. Perfect. Okay. So I just wanted to quickly talk about monkeypox. I know there's like a lot in social media or on the news that you guys may have seen. So basically it's a viral illness. So that means antibiotics do not work for it. So similar to COVID. The difference is though that monkeypox is rarely fatal. Most people do very well with it. It's annoying, but there aren't a lot of long-term risks or side effects. So symptoms to just kind of be aware of are fever, headache, body ache, swollen lymph nodes, chills, fatigue, sore throat, congestion, cough, and rash. The rash has been talked about a lot. There's different stages of the rash, and it's usually the genital area, anus, hands, feet, chest, face, or mouth. Symptoms develop within 3 weeks of an exposure, and the rash can develop a few days after flu-like symptoms. And the illness can last anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. So you're just important to remember that you are contagious anytime you have those symptoms until the rash is fully healed. It spreads through close contact, usually skin to skin. However, it can also be spread through clothing, bedding, towels, or contact with respiratory secretions. Currently, there's no like one specific cure or treatment for monkeypox. They're working on different antiviral drugs, and the same vaccine that they use against smallpox has been found to be really effective because they're from the same family. So currently there's no mandatory isolation if you think you've been exposed or you even think you have monkeypox, but we do suggest whenever you're sick to try to stay home as much as possible. So kind of like at the beginning of COVID, we don't know everything about the virus. So don't be alarmed if someone says, oh, I'm not sure, we have to look that up, give us a second. That's normal. They're still researching a lot of different things about it. But once again, you can look it up yourself if you have like concerns or questions or want to know your individual risk factors. The CDC has a lot of good information about monkeypox. We do ask that if you think you may have been exposed to monkeypox, though, that you definitely call health services so we can talk to you about it. And then, as always, any other additional questions or concerns are always welcomed. Okay, so I'm going to pass it on to Peyton Wu now.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Peyton. I use they, them pronouns, and I have the privilege of serving as the Director for Identity, Student Engagement, and Access, also known as ICEA. In addition to me, I have 3 wonderful staff members. Ita Hedda III, who serves as our Associate Director for Gender and Sexuality. Naomi Ashley, who serves as our Assistant Director for Programming and First Generation Student Support. And Josiah Cook, who serves as the Assistant Director for Programming and Belonging. And as a team, our goal is really to make sure, if we could go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Our goal is really to make sure that students feel empowered holistically through cultivating resources and a sense of community for our students. And so we do this through a variety of different programs and experiences that center mentorship, identity-centered experiences, and spaces that really build community. And currently our office supports students who identify as BIPOC, so looking at Black, African American, those who identify as Latina, Latinx, Asian, Desi American, Pacific Islander, Native Indigenous, and multiracial descent. Students within the LGBTQIA+ community, or those who are exploring their identity as it relates to gender and sexuality. Our first generation college students, which I'll just share at Clark University, we define first generation college students as students who are the first in their family to pursue a 4-year degree. So for students who their family members or their parent and guardian specifically completed a 2-year degree, we still consider you first gen because that's not a 4-year degree. And this also does not include siblings. So even if you perhaps had a sibling who has already attended and graduated university, we still consider you first gen. And then of course, our office also continues to support any other additional student populations as we explore what the emerging needs are. And with that, I'll pass it over to Mike.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Hardy. I use he, him, his pronouns. You may remember me as the Associate Director for Student Leadership and Programming, but now I get to serve as the Director of Student Leadership and Programming. Along with myself, we also hired MK Campbell as our Office and Budget Coordinator. To round out the office, we also have Maria Delant, who is our Assistant Director. SLP has been busy currently getting ready for orientation. We have a large incoming class coming in about 2 weeks, and we're very excited to sort of welcome them to campus. And then right around the corner, we'll be doing the involvement fair. This year, it'll be taking place Wednesday, September 7th from 2 to 5. Hopefully, it'll be on the green, but this will be an opportunity for students to sort of get to know the current and active clubs on campus, as well as some other student-led organizations and the offices that are providing some resources for folks. The other sort of big thing that we have around the corner is our fall club registration. All clubs need to register every semester. This will be their opportunity to also sign up for the involvement fair, get their weekly meeting schedule spaces, and that will be coming out later next week. Around Wednesday, we'll be sending out an email to all student clubs and organizations. But we're excited to welcome you all back to campus, and there will also be a welcome week that's being headed by our Student Activities Board. More information about that to come. But thank you for joining us tonight, and now I'm going to pass it over to Jess.
Hi there, good evening, everyone. My name is Jess Montecalvo. I'm the Director of Residential Life and Housing. As Mike mentioned, we're really excited to be welcoming you back to campus or to campus for the first time for our incoming students in just a few weeks. A few move-in dates on here that I'll go over, but there's, depending on whether or not folks are in early arrival groups, folks may be coming in at different times. So these are really our key move-in times as we welcome students back to campus. So for first-year students, our big welcome day, big move-in day is Thursday, August 25th. For transfers, we'll be welcoming folks back to campus on Friday, August 26th, and then all returning students will start returning back to campus on Sunday, August 28th. And this year, I think there's a few different initiatives that are new for us that we're really excited about. One of those is our new graduate housing at Chandler Village that we're really excited to have new and returning graduate students living in. We've been able to expand the opportunities for graduate housing within our residence hall spaces and build more robust programming and community building opportunities for our graduate students. So we still have a few spots left in those spaces. So for any graduate students still interested in looking to secure housing, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Some other exciting new things happening in our residence halls is we are able to launch this fall, and it's starting now, our first living learning community, which is centering our ACE and Connections pre-orientation program. We'll be living together in Dana Hall throughout the academic year to continue on the learning connection that's happening in the pre-orientation program and moving it right through the academic year. In addition to the new programming happening in our residence halls, we've also been hard at work at filling our staff team. So we have a lot of new faces in our department as well. So along with me, we have Amanda Seferati, who's our Assistant Director for Housing Operations, Logan Hennessy, who's our Housing Operations Coordinator and oversees our graduate student housing. We have Callie Rumbett, who's our Office Manager, Dink, who is our Community Director for Dana Hughes and Affinity House. And Affinity House this year is in a new and newly renovated location. Then we have Cheryl Goodney, who's the Community Director for Dodd, JSC, and our undergraduate Main Street houses. Madden Schmuck, who's our Community Director for Bullock and Wright Hall, and Sean Harris, our Community Director for Blackstone Hall, Maywood Hall, and our Maywood houses. And I'm going to turn it over to Marcy.
Hi, I'm Marcy Galvin-Hill, and my pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm the Assistant Director for the Center for Counseling and Personal Growth And we are very excited to see everyone here for the fall. We're here to support all of our students, to help them through all of their mental health stressors, both big and small, that they may encounter during the school year. We have 7 wonderful staff members pictured here. And we also have 5 doctoral trainees who will be available to see students. If you can skip to the next slide. We have a number of services available, including individual and group therapy. We have urgent appointments where we can see someone same day. We have limited psychiatric services available. And we also have CPG after hours, which is an after hour support service where you can reach a licensed therapist when the counseling center is closed. And you do that just by calling the counseling center phone number. And we also have a group of peer support workers who've received extensive training to help provide support to our students. We are open from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, and we'll begin scheduling students on the first day of classes. So I'm going to pass it over to Kamaro Abubakar, our Associate Dean of Students.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. My name is Kamara Abubakar, and I'm use the He series. Clark University is committed to sustaining an academic environment that respects individual freedom and promotes the health and safety and well-being of all community members. We believe in building an inclusive environment. Therefore, we must adhere to a standard policy that embraces all community members regardless of their background. For that reason, we created a new office called the Office of Community Standard. Another exciting opportunity with this office is allowing students to sit and conduct meetings to facilitate and engage in critical dialogues with the students who violated policy by using the restorative practice approach. The rationale is to help our students think critically about how their actions not only impacted them, but also their peers and the community. This group of students are called the Peer Conduct Board, who will be trained to facilitate these dialogues. I encourage you all to visit our website to learn about our processes and how to get involved. And I will now pass it on to Dean Plant.
Thanks, Kamaro. So I just want to provide a quick overview of the academic support offices in my area and the services these offices provide to students. If you all have more questions about these offices and the services they provide, please do feel free to reach out to me. So the first office is the Academic Advising Center, and they offer general academic services to help undergraduate students plan their academic program. Staff in this office work with undergraduate students to help them explore majors or design their own major, develop strategies to overcome academic difficulties. Staff evaluate transfer credits, AP scores, IB scores, and so on. They help students understand academic policies and how students may receive exceptions from these academic policies, and so much more. That office is located on the 2nd floor of the ASEC building. The next office is the Academic Support Center, and this center houses the Quantitative Skills Center, or the Q Center, Peer Success Tutoring, and the Writing Center, and all of these services are free. So let me start with the Q Center. The Q Center and Peer Success Tutors, they live in the Academic Support Center, and at the Q Center, the students can receive, undergraduate students can receive subject-specific tutoring on courses like calculus, statistics, economics, chemistry, biology, computer science, some languages, and some psychology courses. If you want to schedule an appointment with tutors in the Q Center, there's a link in this slide to do that, and you'll be able to see the specific tutors and what courses they can tutor you on. The Peer Success Tutors help students, both undergraduate and graduate, work on things like time management skills, study skills, and they can also act as study buddies or accountability people. More and more what we're seeing is students scheduling appointments with the Peer Success Tutors to just have a half an hour to sit across from someone who is being productive. And the theory is that if you're doing that, if you're sitting next to someone who's being productive, you yourself will be productive. So feel free to use these tutors as well. They also are on that schedule that the slide is linking to. The Academic Support Center also houses the Writing Center, which offers both undergraduate and graduate students free one-on-one help with any piece of writing at any stage of the writing process. Often what we see most in the Writing Center is students who come in with essays for their courses, but we'll also work with students on things like study abroad application essays, graduate school personal statements, and even pieces of writing that students wrote just for fun. So students literally can come in with anything. And again, at any stage of the process, you can walk in having written nothing and just having received the essay prompt. And we'll sit down and work with you on generating ideas. Our Writing Center appointments are interactive, so students need to be ready to work with the consultant. So in other words, you can't just drop your paper off and pick it up an hour later with all of the commas placed where they're supposed to be placed, right? We see the Writing Center staff see themselves as real teachers of writing. The link to the schedule is here as well. And I would encourage you to schedule early because appointments in the Writing Center fill up quickly. We're going to be offering both online and in-person appointments, and that goes for all of the tutors in the Academic Support Center. All of the tutors in that center, by the way, are Clark students, both grad and undergrad. And the final office I want to talk about is Student Accessibility Services. This is an office that provides support for qualified undergraduate and graduate students who register with the office. Staff in this office will work with students to coordinate academic and residential accommodations and other services on campus. This office also provides short-term accommodations. Sometimes students don't know that. So if you get a concussion, for example, you should reach out to this office and they can provide you with some short-term accommodations. Student Accessibility Services is the point of contact for any student seeking accommodation, and students first need to contact the office and self-identify, then send in appropriate documentation, and then students will meet with a staff person who will work with them to discuss accommodations. And I just want to note that sometimes students come into Clark thinking, I don't want to use my accommodations that I had in high school. I would encourage you to register with the office anyways. It's okay if you don't use your accommodations, but it's always best to have registered with the office so that you can have those accommodations in your back pocket such that if you need to use them, they're right there. It takes about 2 weeks for a student to get set up with their accommodations. And it's more difficult when a student comes to the office to get their accommodations set up and it's, the midway point or past midway point of the semester. So I would encourage you to register with the office. And if you don't use the accommodations, great. But if you need to, they're there for you. And I'm going to pass things over to Dean Morgan Acosta now.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everybody. Danielle Morgan Acosta, she, her pronouns. I am so excited that many of you will be coming back to campus. I've been seeing many folks on campus as well in August. I am actually the last presenter. So if you have a question about some things, start populating that Q&A feature as I share out a few important announcements as we plan for the fall semester. The first is student employment. We know that you want jobs, we have jobs. We also know that having a job on campus helps you be more academically successful. And at Clark, most of our jobs get posted and even sometimes filled before the semester begins. So all campus jobs for students are posted on Handshake. I know that our returning students know Handshake very well. So you can log into Handshake with your Clark credentials, that's your email address and your password, and can look at jobs that you might be interested in and apply for those jobs. All on-campus jobs require a resume and a cover letter, and our Career Connection Center can help you. You can meet with the Career Lab if you're in Worcester in person, but also online at any time. They have been working all summer and kind of connecting folks who are doing job applications or internship applications. And so be sure to utilize those resources. For the graduate students that are on the call, you can also consult with your department and your academic area about your resume review. So be sure to apply for some of those positions on campus. Next, I just want to share a bit about all of the upcoming dates that are coming your way because this semester is here. First year student move-in for our incoming first year students and transfer students with first year status is Thursday, August 25th. That is when first year orientation begins. Move-in and orientation for our sophomore, junior, and senior transfer students is Friday, August 26th. Our returning students, if you aren't moving in early because of one of your many leadership positions or jobs on campus, you are moving in on campus on Sunday, August 28th. We have a big barbecue on the green that day, so be sure to move in early and come say hello to everybody. The first day of classes for the fall semester is Monday, August 29th. And then add drop, so making sure that you have your semester calendar all set up and your classes all set is September 7th. That is also the date that Mike mentioned for the involvement fair. So that afternoon is going to be so much fun. The last day to request meal plan changes, particularly for all of our first year students. I know many of you have been talking in the groups in the Discord about which plan to get. So you can try out any plan. You just need to make sure that you make any changes to that plan by September 9th. For room changes, there's a room freeze period in the residence halls, just so we can get everybody settled and you can work through your roommate agreements. But room change requests for residential students will begin on September 19th. And then a few fun dates that you might want to keep on your calendar, those days when we don't have class. Fall break is October 10th and 11th. We have family and friends weekend, that weekend right after, October 14th and 16th. So if you have any family or friends or folks that might want to come up to beautiful New England in the fall, that is the weekend to join us. Fresh Check Day is coming back on October 19th. That'll be a great programming day. We have Thanksgiving break, November 23rd through the 25th. So no classes during that time. And then December. How am I talking about December and August? But December is coming, so know when those finals dates are, the 15th, 16th, 19th, and 20th. Scattered in between those are some days of reading days for you to study and write your papers. And the residence halls do close at noon on December 21st. So be sure if you're thinking about travel plans back home or for wherever you're going to spend winter break, that you remember those dates. We will be back in session with students moving in for the spring on January 15th, and classes for spring session 2023 will be January 17th. So just a few notes to help you plan out the next couple months. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Lamera to facilitate the next part.
Hello, thank you to all of our speakers today. Such a breath of great information. As Dean Morgan Acosta said, we are encouraging you all to utilize the question and answers function, as this time we'll be moderating some Q&A from our wonderful panelists. So we have answered a few questions already, but some of you may not have seen those answers. So I will be spending some time reviewing some of the answers that have already been given by folks. Okay. So we have a question that says, what can Clark say about the growing concern of monkeypox amongst the still apparent cases of COVID happening in Worcester? So I'm going to field that to Nurse Smith to answer some questions about that.
Hi, okay. So as I was saying during the presentation, unfortunately, it is a reality that it's around here. But the good news is that it's a very mild illness overall, and most people do really well with it. And there are some emerging treatments coming out so that we will be able to direct people with that. As the same with COVID, unfortunately, it's kind of part of society. So it's just important to do the precautions, do what you guys know you're supposed to be doing, and keep up to date with your vaccines to the best of your abilities.
Thank you, Nurse Smith. We have a couple of questions regarding Fresh Check Day. Do I have someone from CPG to answer that? If not, I'll field it to Dean Morgan Acosta.
Oh,
I
sorry.
think Marcy was muted.
Oh,
Yes, I
okay.
was muted. Yes, Fresh Check Day is going to occur on October 19th. And there will be a number of booths that the students can attend to learn different aspects of mental health. And that is going to be run by two of the staff members at the counseling center. Mary and Leah are in charge of that. And we're going to have more details on that coming out shortly.
Thank you. There's one more question regarding mental health. For students who anticipate needing access to mental health support services, is there a way to connect before moving in first-year students? So there is a bit of clarity on where to go and who to talk to in advance. I'll fill that back to you, Marcy.
Yes, you can call the counseling center. We are currently here. The phone number is 508-793-7678, or you can email the counseling center as well. And we will reach back out to you to let you know if somebody is urgently in need of a session prior to the start of classes. We can negotiate setting up an appointment time before then. But we will be reaching back out to anybody who calls us up until the first day of classes during that first week of classes to get people scheduled in.
Thank you, Marcy. We have a question that says, how do we apply for on-campus jobs if we're just starting our master's this fall 2020? I'll pass that to Dean Morgan Acosta.
For the same way that I explained before. So if you log into handshake.clarku.edu with your Clark email and password, you should be able to view the jobs that are available, particularly those jobs that are available for graduate students, and apply online prior to coming to campus.
Thank you, Dean Morgan Acosta. We have a question regarding housing. Could you explain further what it means in terms of the maximizing of housing on campus in order to accommodate everyone seeking housing? There was a quote in here that says, with the large incoming class and record breaking number of returning students looking to live on campus, we are at full capacity. This has meant needing to maximize housing on campus in order to accommodate everyone seeking housing. And this has meant needing to convert some spaces that were previous common spaces within a few apartments back into student rooms. So could you please explain this further? Is it places like study rooms, like the one in Bullock? If a spot is converted within an apartment, will students already in an apartment be alerted? I'm going to pass that to Director Montecalvo.
Thanks, Amira. Yeah, great question. So I think, as a few folks have mentioned, we have a really large incoming class, and we also had some record-breaking numbers of returning students looking to live on campus. So what that means for us is we are full. I think one of the questions I think that Amira didn't talk about that I'll also answer is whether or not there's folks who don't have housing assignments. All students have all incoming students living on campus have housing assignments at this time. Where there may have been some folks who did not have housing assignments in the summer are typically folks who maybe didn't go through the returning housing process, but then decided they did want to live on campus. So they get added to a wait list. And once we were able to settle incoming student housing, we're able to house the rest of our returning students. So in terms of the sort of common area spaces that we were using, we're not using, for folks familiar with Bullock or Wright or JSC or any of our traditional halls, we're not using any of those common spaces for bedroom spaces. Those are our common spaces like typical. We've only used, I think, 3 apartment common rooms that we've converted back to double rooms. They'd historically been double rooms, but the last few years we've had the capacity to make those into common rooms, but they'll be converted back into bedrooms for this academic year. But if for folks who are in those specific spaces, those folks are already aware. that the common spaces are not in their apartments any longer. And it's, I believe it's like 3 or 4 of those, and those folks are already aware.
Thank you. We have one more housing question, so I'll keep you right there. How should I proceed with changing to a first-year dorm or residence hall?
Great question. If you have any questions about your housing assignment and want to talk through your placement, please email reslife@clarku.edu. That's the best way to first get a sense of what's going on, and then we'll connect you with one of our housing operations staff to talk through your options and identify a good placement for folks. I will say in general, I think an important thing for both our returning and incoming students to know is, I think as opposed to the last few years where we've had more half open doubles or open singles and more flexibility, as I mentioned, will be full capacity, and we will not have that same flexibility going into this year. So we'll really be working with folks to talk through to talk through any issues that are coming up, to try and make sure spaces work for folks. And as Danielle mentioned before, when that room change process opens, we will have a little bit less opportunities for room changes than we maybe have had in the past.
You're on the roll, so we have one more. When will the specific information come out about move-in for connections and orientations for connections and student accessibility students if they're involved in both? So I guess this is involving like early arrival folks.
Yeah, that's a good question. And Peyton, I don't know if you have any other things to add here, but for folks doing pre-orientation or any pre-arrival programs, those programs specifically communicate with folks around what that orientation program or pre-orientation program will look like, and talk through what some of the check-in requirements will look like. For other folks who are just doing maybe regular early arrival, communication about when folks can check in and where will be coming out in the next few days. But Peyton, I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add for the connections side of house.
Yeah, absolutely. So as just mentioned, that communication is definitely being corresponded. So we send all communication regarding move-in for connections directly to the student. And so at this point, the student should have received at least 2, if not 3 emails that specifically details as it relates to connections move-in. And we actually include things like a packing list, where you should park, and check-in registration. So if you yourself are not receiving that communication, I would certainly encourage you to chat with your student to see if perhaps that has been a communication that's been being sent to their Clark email that they may have missed. But we will continue to send those communications on a weekly basis as we move closer to move-in for connections, which will be on August 20th, which is just next Saturday now. So we're excited to welcome our new connections class on campus soon.
Thanks, Director Wu. This question was previously answered, but other folks may have a similar question. When will SLS coaches be contacting students? I'll defer to Dean Roberts.
Hi, everyone. Beginning next week, on the week of August 15th, students should start to hear from their SLS coaches, and they will be working with their students to plan what days of the week they'll be meeting, and those days and times will hold for the whole entire semester.
Thanks, Dean Roberts. Some people asked if this link to the presentation or the webinar will be provided. It will. The webinar is being recorded. It will be publicized for everyone who may have missed part of it, and the link will be available for at least a week, I believe. There was a question earlier regarding students with COVID isolating in their res halls. Would they be provided with food? Dean Abubakar answered this, but would you be able to provide a bit more information on that?
Yes, thank you. So thank you for the question. Yes, so all students who have a meal plan will be able to order for food, and the food will be delivered to their rooms. They'll also have the option of having their friends pick up the food for them, but definitely we'll have somebody bringing out the food when they order. For students who do not have meal plan, they would have to order their own meal and have it delivered to their space.
Thank you, Dean Abubakar. I do not see any additional open questions. Feel free to continue to field your questions using the Q&A function. But for now, I'll defer to Dean Kay.
Thank you, Lamera. All right, folks, at this time, I think we're gonna wrap up. Let's just give it one more minute or maybe a few more seconds to see if there are any other questions. All right, folks, with that, we are super excited to see you all very soon for opening. I wish you all the best with the rest of the few days. For those of you who might be relaxing a little bit, good for you. For those of you that may be wrapping up internships or jobs, I hope you have a good wrap up. And again, we look forward to seeing you very soon here at Clark. So with that, have a good night. And thank you to all the panelists for taking the time today to be with our students. Bye, y'all.